I know your customer technology company known as VERIFYME. That company is powering open finance across frontier Africa. The tech company recently released its Digital ID in Nigeria report, which says was the first independent study into the state of digital ID and KYC in Nigeria. Esigie Aguele is the co-founder and chief executive officer of VERIFYME Nigeria and is live here in the studios with me right now. Great having you here tonight.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
VERIFYME.
Yes.
What quite a name, but it wasn't a name. But I just like that. Sounds very
fantastic.
Nice.
Thank you.
VERIFYME. What's behind this latest report? What are you looking to achieve with it? What are you trying to verify?
So, one of the things we're looking at in this report is, as we looked at the ecosystem, the ICT sector alone contributes about 18% to the Nigerian GDP in our research. When you juxtapose that with the appetite the government has for digitization and the digital economy, right, you see that there's still so much more that can be contributed to this. Now, as you look at also now the digital economy, digital identity is at the core of any enablement of digital identity, because for the most part, in terms of transactions, you need to know who's sending, who's receiving, who's ordering, who's buying, or who's requesting a service. So we really see digital identity as the core of the overall digitization going on in the Nigerian economy, which has been accelerating over the past few years under this administration. So why now? So because of this, because we see the surge, because we see the ecosystem, we understand that there is a need for more conversations about regulation regarding digital identity, how to protect the, I would say, indigenous business ecosystem, and what we should be looking at so that we can continue to grow and scale and mature our economy, and more so go into open banking and then take our baby steps into open finance.
We were talking about digital transformation agenda. Do you think the government is faithful to that? Do you think the government is ready to go the whole 9 yards, as it were, in terms of using digital ID as a critical enabler?
Yeah, well, I can't speak for the government because, of course, we're private sector. Yes. But what I can say is that if you look at 2019, there were about maybe 35 million identities that had been documented biometrically, and if you look now, there are 75 million. So we can judge the I would say the productivity, where 40 million over a year and a half is a commendable number. So based on that, I do believe that the appetite is there, based on the regulation and based on what we see in terms of working with government partners. I do think that the appetite is there to continue to grow here. For sure.
I love that. A World Bank study says digital ID could add about 7% to our real GDP. I'm sure the government will say thank you to those of you, some of you who studies digital as well as World of Finance. Is this a realistic outlook?
Yes, it is. For example, if you look at the credit gap in Nigeria, many experts, for example, you have, I think, Deji Olowe had written an article about the $120 billion credit market gap in Nigeria. All of this is going to be powered by digital identity. There's going to be no credit market without anti-money laundering compliant biometric-based digital identity. So this is why we believe that we can add that 7% to the GDP by that 2030 for sure.
Okay, one of the arguments for the migration to digital IT systems is that it's more secure, infrastructure better than analog and what have you. But there's an increase in online identity theft and all of that. These days, you need to protect your PIN number more than your wallet. Perhaps, I don't know.
Of course.
Everything's gone electronic wallet.
Yes.
I don't have any wallet here. I don't know if you have, but everything is
all digital. It's all on my phone.
All digital.
Yes.
So can we trust this digital infrastructure?
So, new technologies will bring different problems. So I'll give you an example. On an analog paper system, the problem we deal with is ghost workers. Right? Exactly. So as you go into digitization, you're not dealing with that anymore. You have new problems that you have to overcome. So yes, and this is one of the reasons companies like, we're here, VERIFYME, because we don't only provide services for verification of identity so that businesses can scale, but we also provide the authentication so that they can scale securely, provide remote services, make sure that the right people are getting access to the services as well. So it's really about a trust infrastructure, not just digital identity, that provides information information on who somebody is, that's their identity, where someone is located, and what somebody is. That's including other consumer insights about that individual, so they can get more than just social services, more than basic services. We're even getting into credit and loans at this point. Yes.
My earlier point about digital transformation, part of it has to do with the NIN, which has been quite a bit of an issue in recent times. The NIMC wants to go a whole hog, as it were. Your firm were part of the private sector that secured. Tell me more about this. You're looking at 2030. That's what the NIMC says. They want 2030. Is it a realistic target year?
Oh, yeah, I think for sure. Look at what they've done in the past year and a half, right? So 2030, we're talking 8 years away. So yeah, I think it's a realistic target to get to a good maturity level of, the number of Nigerians who are socially included. One of the big challenges is also, just getting that socialization out there so that people realize that getting digitized is an empowerment thing. It's not even like you're doing your government a favor, right? It's about actually being able to take control of your destiny for social inclusion, financial inclusion, and we really call it self-determination, so that there are many cases where folks don't have a digital identity. They would have to go to someone for a little microcredit or a loan. And with that digital identity, they can get it themselves and don't really need to depend on anyone. So yes, I do think we can go a very, very long way by 2030.
Interesting. But again, we all know this issue comes to head sometimes about asking various government agencies sitting on different databases to collaborate and work together to have a single identity window, like you have a single button you can press in advanced economies such as the US, the UK, and every other things without going through different agencies, as it were. So how do you think we'll be able to get this done? What are the pros and cons of moving everything into a single database, in a manner of speaking?
So, and I think that's being done now. This is why we have the harmonization initiative. So if you look at what has been done, a lot of people who have BVNs, they ported their BVNs over and they got NINs. So there are many people, when you go to get your NIN, they actually ask you for your BVN first. Because a lot of harmonization has been there. You also see regulation where with passports, with driver's license, and these are the functional IDs now, where NIN is the foundational ID. Right? They're passing regulation where you can no longer get access to those IDs if you don't have your foundational ID. What you're going to see is this regulation is going to clean up or mature the harmonization. And as time goes by, that harmonization that we're looking for a national repository is going to get closer and closer to 100%.
Interesting. Can we use this for electoral purposes?
Of course, I think that there are. I can't answer that question, but of course, there are advantages to it. Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking about?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I can't speak to that, but yeah, I'm sure that there are mechanisms and initiatives on the way to further secure things like voting and other.
One of the things Nigeria will want to see is to make sure that we got the electoral process done very well. How can digital identity bridge the gap between identification and services in order to bring more African population into the social and financial safety net? Almost 1 billion people, and quite a lot, about 1.2 billion people, and still a number still excluded because
about 50%.
Yeah, about 50% exclusion. Yeah. That's huge.
That's a very big number, and this is why the informal sector in Africa even still remains so big. And it's not so much of an advantage because then it also doesn't get counted in kind of like a formal economy.
It's not much of an advantage.
As part of your GDP, and you lose on taxes, and you lose so much. So this is also what digital ID enables and secures, right? To make sure that even as it relates to government revenue for taxes, when you have an identity, you know who's not paying taxes, you know who's paying taxes, because at that point you can, have the analytics to be able to.
Then you know who needs what social infrastructure and where.
Exactly.
Because sometimes even to find a street address in Lagos or townships could be really difficult.
That is true. I think that's more of and we do have a structural standardization of addressing. There is a relationship between addressing and identity, because you want to know who somebody is, but then you want to know where they are, right? Because of recovery and delivery and so many other things. So yes, it's really a very big problem. Of which, by the way, VerifyMe, we're not, we're really a trust infrastructure. So in terms of the identity space, we are quite big in that space and directly sourced to NIN, driver's license, and government IDs. But we also have innovative technology for locationing. So we have I would say, a digital addressing platform where we can easily identify customers using their phone numbers or their phones for our customers. And then we also have the full Tier 3 platform where we can have, and we call it kind of like the Uber model. We have 30,000 agents across the country actually that do addresses for us, and we can verify pretty much any location, any person, any asset, any business in any local government in Nigeria except where there's an insurgency.
Interesting how much is being done, but again, we need to move across borders in Africa. So that brings in, if you can put digital technology and everything together, it needs to bring money. How do we deploy that for trade, payment solution systems, payment and settlement and all of that?
Oh, this is one of the areas where Nigeria...
That music in your ears.
Yeah, but Nigeria is very advanced, I mean, if you look at payment features, payment technology, fintech, I mean, we're really very innovative.
Ahead of the curve.
Ahead of the curve and very innovative in this space. I look at it two ways in terms of digital identity, right? Digital identity is going to significantly increase revenue in this country, first of all, in any country in Africa. And I think we kind of need to mature that in our countries. It's almost like Hooke's Law, where you can't build a complex system at once. You have to kind of build your countries first. And then at some point, we do need that cross-border interoperability. If you look at the EU, for example, they recently mandated that member states have the same ID, I would say nomenclature, so that IDs are usable cross-border, and see how this helps, for commerce, for transportation of delivery of goods, and also for cross-border transportation. So this is also what it's going to do for us, for sure. But I just do think that we do have quite a few other steps to take in our own individual countries, and then we'll get there eventually.
And then we can all connect it.
Exactly, right?
Just a single ecosystem for entire Africa. Very interesting.
Yes.
Have a great evening. It's nice speaking with you.
Same to you. Thank you very much.
You can verify me now.
I can verify you.
Okay, you know where I am. You know where to find me.
You're verified. Don't worry about it.
Thank you so much for coming through. Esigie Aguele, co-founder and CEO at VERIFYME Nigeria.